been, and they think, and everything, it's just like, I'm sending it out to the group. Well, if you're in that group and it's wrong, you're going to get it. And it looks like it's coming just to you, but you don't see like it's going to 20 other people.
5:30, we'll start the streets and drainage committee.
All right, we'll start off with John Groff. He wanted, he has some legislation for certain 30th Street paving thing. So go ahead, John.
Thanks, Bob. Next summer, the city of Heath, Newark, and Granville have a joint project, which includes paving South 30th Street. The engineering's done, ODOT's approved the designs. Newark had an outstanding design engineer do their plans, and that's what really pushed it through for us. And he actually is in our presence tonight. Anyway, we got the final legislation for the project, and we need to pass this and also to appropriate our match, which is $62,180. And ODOT needs this money no later than January 16th. So I have the legislation here, and I'm going to ask that possibly at the first meeting in January that you approve the legislation on the first reading.
Oh, on first reading?
On first reading.
Okay.
So the paving of the project is obviously going to sell fairly early in the year. So it'll be ready sometime early spring, or late spring probably, early summer. We should get a good price on it because it's selling out.
How much?
When are they planning on doing the paving, Tim?
$62,180.
I mean, they got to sell it, and then I don't know what the time frame on it is. I mean,
During
usually
the school year or in the summer?
I don't know. It probably depend on who gets the project. I mean, I don't know. There was no stipulation that said they had to do it between here and here or whatever. So,
The others.
yeah.
So if they're selling it earlier in the year, it's possible it could be before school gets out.
All right.
I mean, it'll probably be like a lot of things. Depending on what company gets it, if they got other work other places, or they're combining this with that, and let's say for example, let's say like Kikosing would get it or something like that, and Kikosing also would bid on maybe street paving or something like that in Newark, or have Heath other paving or something. What I mean? They might bundle together so that they come in and do it all at one time or something.
Okay.
But yeah, there's no stipulation. The only thing I know, they can't pave on July 2nd, 3rd, or 4th, I'm pretty sure. Because we didn't want to tear up 30th Street if we had the July 2nd celebration and 4th of July. So
All right.
I think we put in there no work during those 3 days or something.
Okay.
Should we put an extra bonus in there for the design guy or something? I mean, round off to an even 100,000.
No.
I heard he was good for nothing, Jack.
Yeah, I agree with that, but
Wait until the bids come in.
Everything
before you
he
say
does
anything.
is pro bono. Everything else there is fine with me.
And this also includes a median.
Don't even. In oak trees?
Yeah.
Hey, Tim.
What do we name him? Kelly Culver somewhere?
Yeah.
Is now the time to ask about the light, the turn on 30th and Clarence?
Yes, and that, I mean, yeah, you might
I
want to
got
bring
a
it up.
question. Good question. The corner of 30th and Claren and Custer, that corner there, what are the possibilities and what are the directions and the steps of trying to get a left turn light there? We've already got a left turn lane.
Well, left turn light, whether or not you have it, is dictated by the amount of traffic volume, the left turns that you have. Is it warranted? So what you do is you'd have a traffic analysis done of traffic movement through the intersection, and if it's warranted that it would allow one, then you can have it done. Now you have two options. You don't have to do that. You can pay for it completely out of your pocket. The other option is if you do it, since South 30th Street is in the federal system, you could put it in as an LCAS project and they would pay 80% of it. However, time-wise, when would this be done? If LCAT's paid for it, it could be 5 or 6 years because we've got our current project list already put together. So depends. The first thing you do is you have a traffic analysis done to determine if the volume of traffic turning allows, there's enough volume to do it. And if there is, then you go with one of two options. You can have LCATS pay for it, or you can pay for it out of your own pocket, the city can. So,
Tim, how much does something like that
Corner
cost?
of Claren Drive, 30th and Claren.
You know where the get-go is and the, what is that,
Well,
Speedway or?
I don't know whether there's I don't know, John or Bob, if you know, is that intersection now just a fixed time? It's so much time each way? Or is there any loops or anything that determines the side streets or anything?
I don't know if it's on a loop.
You know,
or,
I think it's just fixed time.
I get through there a lot, a lot. I've never seen it any different from day to day. It's always the same. Now, maybe there's something at night where there's less traffic, and it recognizes that, and the traffic stays green on 30th Street. But during the day,
I don't think
There might be loops in right now.
I didn't know if there was. I mean, if you had the loops or you had the camera, whichever way you wanted to go about it, and you had then it's a matter of just either putting a loop in for that left turn lane, and then put it back. Either you do loops, put it back far enough so it takes a second vehicle to trip it, as opposed to just one guy getting the light. Or if it's a camera, you put the loop in so it takes two vehicles or three or how many you want to make it to get the protected left turn. Otherwise, you just get the green bulb. And
So if there are loops already in all of the lanes, then it could cost less.
Yeah, you just put a 5-section light up and set the controller. I don't think you have a controller there that can do that. I think it's fixed time.
yeah,
I'm thinking right now it's fixed time. It's 30th Street gets so much time, side street so much time. That's all. They just
I've never
so much
seen
time.
it change ever.
Yeah. So I think that's what's there.
The
So
one thing that it could do is some of those lights used to flash yellow at night, and I don't know if it still do that or not, since the 30th Street somebody comes driving through there at night. I mean, like
I don't think that one does.
like at one or two
The other
in the
ones
morning.
do.
yeah,
I've been there.
it just sort of depends on how it's set up. If you got a controller, what kind of controller cabinet you have, you might have to upgrade that. If you don't have it, you'd have to get one. And then
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
it
then
won't
either
be
go
part
with
of this
cameras.
project. It's,
I mean,
it's too late to
it-
be part of this project.
It wouldn't be that expensive. The lanes are already there, so it's not like you're doing anything other than just putting the light up so
Yeah.
you can get control by the light. But
There's a number of different times I've noticed, and maybe it's because I drive through there sometimes after school has let out or whatever, but even this weekend, with all the holiday shopping traffic, you'd have, say, 3 cars in the turn lane. And then the green light, there's no turn arrow, so green light comes, and that one car, the lead car, might be the only car that gets through there. I mean, they'll go stake their claim in the intersection, and then they might be the only one that gets to go through, unless somebody.
You must be
And if
driving
they don't
somewhere else
stake their
because
claim, they're-
most people I never see even go in the intersection when I'm behind them. They're waiting.
Just one thing to remember, when you begin putting in dedicated left turn arrows and stuff, or lights, you're going to slow down the traffic on the main road. So that's an outcome you're going to have to accept. If you say, okay, I want a left turn signal, well, then you're going to have to expect longer backups and more delays at that intersection. So that's the trade-off.
The situation with the left-hand turn at that intersection is why the buses coming out of Stevenson, instead of turning left and making a right onto 30th and then getting that, they go on down and get on to and then come up Claren past Gumas and just wait for that light so that they can get a green light through that whole intersection, because they just it'd only be one bus at a time getting through there trying to make a left.
You can't make a left-hand turn off of any of those streets on the 30th Street. It's almost impossible. It's better to go to the light, like you said. If you pull out there and then turn right, then you have to turn left at the light. Turning left on the Custer is the worst turn.
the same thing's actually down there, like at Andover. The mall road in Andover. It just has a green bulb.
Yeah.
And usually, if you're the first car there, you let the traffic go, and then you can get one or two across there. Every once in a while, it'll back up.
Because the traffic coming out of the mall area will get a green, and the other side will stay red for a little while.
Yeah.
Like maybe 5 seconds or so. Not long, but something like that. So that you can have
split
people
phase,
making a left out of there.
Well, I'm saying if you're on 30th and you want to turn left onto Andover,
Oh, yeah.
you know, that there, you just get the green bulb. You know,
Yep.
They don't have a 5-section light, so you only get the green bulb.
Yep.
It would, you know, in the perfect world, it'd be great to have the cameras and have it so that if you have 3 or 4 vehicles, then they get the dedicated and
Yeah.
get to go, and so you don't have protected turns and everything.
So
But
let's say
the
there
cost
weren't,
is, I don't know.
let's say if we didn't have anything in there. Was that light?
It's like,
Yes.
I thought I saw one.
What would an intersection like that cost?
I don't know how many lights you got to change in the controller and everything. I don't know. Might be able to do it for. We did 79 with the cameras and stuff, and that was what, 60-some thousand,
Yeah, about,
something
yeah.
like that, for the couple places we put the cameras and stuff. So maybe like 25 or 30,000 in an intersection or something.
Most of the cost would be in the controlling box.
Yeah, the controller cabinet costs you the most, and then change out the lights. It wouldn't be too much. And
25 or 30,000.
yeah. It's hard to, I mean, like I said, it depends on whether you want to communicate with each other and timing and the whole 9 yards, you know.
Dick and
You
I
get-
were talking, and I think maybe he and I both have kind of seen the same thing where, you know, you might go through a couple light cycles before you can make a left at one
Yeah.
of these streets.
The one they're talking is down there like at Speedway and Get Go and stuff. If you're coming
Turn
from
left
north
on
on 30th Street and you want to turn left onto Custer, and you're in front of Speedway
Yeah.
there, like you're waiting to turn left, the cars coming north, going towards Newark, just keep coming through, and very rarely, once they finally get a red light, you may get the one vehicle to clear the intersection. And
The
everything.
Speedway is. That's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Where the residents going into Clarendon Drive.
Yeah. Yeah, the people in Clarendon come the other way. Now, I have seen people do the cut through Get Go and then go down Clarendon.
Yeah.
We're
We're not advocating.
That's a famous. I've seen a lot of people do that
was it a
one.
dark blue minivan by chance?
Now that dark blue minivan was stopping to get fuel up the caskets as I watched the people go.
Okay.
So
So we're talking.
how do we proceed, or do we need to proceed, or?
Oh, I thought you had a question.
If
Step
we were to
one.
pay for it ourselves, would
You
we
don't-
need
you
to
don't
have
need-
it warranted, or could we
No.
just do it?
You would still have to have some design work done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're looking at probably $5,000 to $6,000 for design work. So,
It's a pretty big chunk of change for.
But didn't you say something about
Design it.
they would pay 80% of it?
That's
There are
if you
two
did it
ways
through
of-
Hellcats.
No.
if the city wants to pay for it out of its own project, we would just hire a design engineer to do the design work, to do the appropriate circuitry and stuff like that. Then you go out to bid it, and that's all there is to it. You pay 100% out of the city's pocket. If you wanted to use federal money, you would have to do a traffic analysis, hire an engineer to do a traffic analysis. That probably cost, I don't know, $7,000, $8,000. Then, if the analysis said a light is warranted in accordance, a left turn is warranted in accordance with federal regulations, you could get LCATs to pay for 80% of it.
Okay, all right, so, 'cause I thought you said, like, Hellcats would be 5 years out, but there's another one that would be 80%.
If you wanted to go LCATs, it would not be done immediately. It would be done 4 or 5 years from now. They'd have to put it into their transportation program.
So to get any assistance, it's 5 years out.
Yeah. Pay for it out of your own pocket in the long run. It's faster, and I don't want to say it's cheaper because you would pay more, but it's less frustrating. Anytime you don't have to use federal money, don't use federal money.
Well, this might be one of those things where, you know, maybe if we have a stronger revenue stream and can. There's a need, and no doubt, I see it too. There's a need. Anybody that's gone through there when you have times of high volume of traffic, if you're trying to make a left, there's a need. I'm not sure that the need outweighs the money crunch that we currently have.
I
So
don't see the need fitting 82, 2012 at this point.
yeah,
I really don't.
yeah.
Oh, no.
You don't have to do a study, do you? I mean, if you just want to put it in, you got.
If you want to
we
put
do
it
it
in
ourselves,
yourself
you
using
just put
city
it
money,
in.
you don't have
Okay.
to do a study at all. No.
So if you want to put it in yourself,
It
we're
would
doing
cost
this
us
study.
25, 30,000.
Well, maybe at the left-hand, but the left-hand turn lanes are there. If the controllers already exist, they're proper controllers, then it wouldn't be that big of a deal, right?
But if the loops are there and the controllers exist, why don't we have it now?
Yeah,
Well, I don't know.
I don't
there's
think
gotta be
it's
something missing there.
I don't think it's there now.
it's there either.
I don't think the capability is there now. You'd have to add something.
I didn't know if it was, you know.
Yeah. I don't know that for a
The
fact.
left-hand turn lanes are there, maybe the thought was there, and maybe the controller is. Somebody could look.
Bob, you could have Dave take a
Can
look
you
at
talk
this. And,
For 9 or 10
Dave.
people, maybe.
We'll get Bob to talk to Dave and see if maybe,
Yeah.
you know, and then next meeting, maybe give us an update.
yeah, just tell us what the assets are at those intersections.
Yeah.
Andover, and then coming out of the mall there, and McLaren, and
Just remember, if you have left-hand turns, you're going to slow down traffic tremendously. You're going to slow down traffic on the main thoroughfare through Heath.
Yeah, so it's just consequences, a question of consequences.
I go through some of those places, street in Columbus, where they got left-hand turns. It seems like it takes forever
Yeah.
to get
Well,
through,
yeah, I think
unless the lights are synced where you can
Right.
get through.
No, I was saying I would design it so you had to have at least 2, if maybe not even 3 cars there for it even would go through the cycle to give you the arrow.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, it just gives you the green bulb. Because you got 1 car, you can do
And
like
that's
you do
the
now.
car.
You wait till they clear and then
Yeah.
you go.
Okay.
You know?
yeah.
Yeah. You
The
wouldn't
problem
do it
is if you got
every
3
time.
or so cars, like I said, it could be a couple light cycles before you can make a left.
Yeah. If you had 3, it would give you the arrow and all 3 cars could clear the intersection
Yeah.
and give them stacking room for the next 3 to show up.
Ask Dave to take a look at that, Bob, and let's see what we got
What's
there
that?
right
What's
now.
Okay. Second.
All right, we had a water break in front of Meritor. I guess it's been 10 days ago or so. It was on a weekend. And the material that was put back in there by the water guys was wet, and of course it didn't pack very well. And they had to close the lane because it just wasn't drivable to go over that. But what I noticed that Monday, traffic was backing up to Hopewell Drive and then stopping in the middle of the intersection and clogging up everything. So we decided we needed to do something pretty quick. The street department tried to find some material to put in there, but we didn't have anything dry. It had been raining all weekend. We called some of the gravel companies. Nobody had anything dry, so there was hardly any dry material to put in there. We did eventually dig into some of our piles and get the driest we could and packed in there to give us a base, and then we opened that back up. But again, it didn't take very long before it was bad again because just the stuff that was underneath was still too wet. Meanwhile, my observation, and the press isn't here, so even though we're on that we had signs up, but it's like ready, set, go when the light turns green on 79 by Hopewell. I mean, it is a drag race to get to 16. And they were hitting that, I know, going probably 60 miles an hour. And within,
They even passed
and
you.
even though there was a signs that said right, or dips and bump, there were signs there, that didn't matter. And I saw at least 3 or 4 cars bottom out when I was there. And it didn't
35
slow.
mile an hour speed limit there, isn't it?
Yeah,
35.
35. Yeah. So that didn't matter. So anyway, we cut a break because of the Franklin Avenue project we have going on. They were in the process of patching the hole they had dug in Franklin. So they came over Thursday and put down a base for us there, and then Friday they came and paved it. Now it's not the smoothest. We may have to redo it in the spring, but it's covered up, and hopefully it won't settle anymore. But it's paved now, so that's a good thing. Like I said, it's a little rough, but we'll try to get through and we'll reassess it in the spring for that. So it was a lot better than what it was, but yeah, people didn't care they were hitting that. They didn't care.
Yeah, just have the street department continue to call me, okay?
Yeah, Heath takes all calls for cars that get bottomed out, oil pans, or mufflers. So
Public service you're providing, Heath.
that's been fixed. We have been using the Durapatcher in Southgate, mostly a lot of cracks and things we have going on, but we've been using that a lot this late fall, and since the weather's been pretty decent, we've been able to use it for the snow hits. And it's just basically sealing up some of the places in Southgate, especially if we're not going to pave anything in the near future. We have to try to keep those streets where the moisture doesn't get down in there. So we've been using that where we have some bad areas right now. And it seems to be okay, so we're using that wherever we can. Along those same lines, we're cold patching any potholes we have right now. Trying to keep up with that. We've had a few complaints here and there. We try to go out as soon as we hear something and fix those areas. And this time of year, we're just, I think our trucks are ready to go. They're sitting waiting, which is not a bad thing. Haven't spent anything on time or salt or anything like that in December, so if we can get through December, that's going to be a good thing. I would say if we get through December without much, from January through December this year might be the least amount of snow and money spent maybe that we've ever had. That is a good thing.
Question, did you have to commit to buying so many tons of salt this year?
Yeah.
The barn's full, right?
The barn is overflowing.
So we'll have to find someplace else to put it if it really doesn't. I know, but you gotta make a
Well,
commitment too.
we'll eventually use, if it snows, we'll be using it, so. But we've ordered less, but you have to get 80%.
Looks like it might snow Thursday, Friday time frame. That's not good.
Wash your mouth out with soap.
I know. When's that mine, Colin?
It's the 21st.
Thursday, huh? Yeah. Well, see, we might not have to worry about that
Have
anyway.
a whole party Thursday night. Whole matter.
Yeah.
What we ordered?
Right.
We ordered less, but,
Which is just, who knows? Who knows? We kept ordering more and more and more, we kept running out, and then when you run out, you have to pay a higher price, so we've been ordering more, and then last year, we didn't need it. And, I don't have anything else, other items, unless somebody else has something.
okay.
Thanks, Bob.
Department will agenda,
52.
Digital.
You ready to go again?
No. Well, email, we need iPads.
Well, you got that big screen up there, just
Yeah.
set it
Yeah.
for that. Get wireless.
Okay.
Ready? All right, we'll call Parks and Recreation to order at still 5:52.
The Victorian Christmas was, the last weekend, right?
Not this past, the weekend before.
Jill sent out an update on that. She said there were 1,640 people towards the home this year. I know John parked cars, and he thought there was a little bit less people than what it had been in some years past, but they're saying 1,640 people went through the facility. She says there were some entertainment, show choir, bagpiper, harpist, and more. Bob Evans donated 80 gallons of hot chocolate to the house. That's a lot of hot chocolate today.
Yes.
And I think that she says here that we were 20% under budget, but I think that Jan had to buy decorations for the new expansion of the house, and Jan
For
didn't
last
include for last year, and Jan didn't include that on expenses because those are items that we're going to have from year to year. It wouldn't be a yearly expense. So I think Jill totaled even the decorations that Jan had bought the year before, but I think we were pretty close to what we had spent years
Did you
past.
say 20% under budget?
That's what Jill says, but I don't think we were because she added in the decorations Jan bought last year, so Jan's total would have been higher. And
okay.
as far as our expenses go, we kind of, you kind of treat that as a
Okay.
capital improvement or a fixed asset that you keep. It's not really an expense that you incur
Okay.
just because of Victorian Christmas. We're going to buy those and keep them and reuse them. So So we were probably around the same in that. I mean, things like the tent you have to get, and the chairs, and the buses, and there were some porta johns we had to get, and spotlights for parking, horse and carriage. So those are some of the expenses they incur. And
For
they
this
paid-
year's.
For this year's. They did pay for some of the entertainment, not much, but some of it they did.
We received I signed those some purchase orders for those, right? So we've gotten the invoices already.
Yep, the only thing that hasn't been paid are the porta johns. We haven't got a bill on that, and that's, we'll be done.
Okay.
Be done with that. So I think that's all. Got that email today. The mayor
Keep
has
in
asked.
mind that next year, we will not be co-sponsoring events at the Shea House, including Victorian Christmas. So, and the Arts Council is aware of that fact and the potential then for increased costs to the Arts Council to, if they want to continue to have some of the things that the city's typically paid for as part of that.
And those expenses were deleted out of my budget for year 2013. With that, on the Shea House more, the mayor always asks me to do a kind of comparative of expenses from year to year, of what the city pays. Yeah. More stuff?
No.
I got mine.
Okay. I was thinking off the bottom.
So this is not through those most recent invoices then that I just
Yes, they
referenced?
are.
All those
Put
are
them in today.
Oh, they're included in,
Yeah.
oh, then maybe I didn't get an up-to-date one.
Maybe the one I gave you today, I gave you one this morning before I put them in probably, so. If
Okay.
it's different,
Yep.
just throw that one away.
I will do that.
I think I put that in there before I made the changes. I did that. Just a comparison from 2011 to 2012. Since there's not too many categories here, I'll go through them real quick and try to explain if there's any differences. Repair and maintenance, again, since we've had a tornado damage, and then we had the house added on to, everything's pretty new. So there's not too many repair and maintenance items that we're gonna have to take care of right now. I do not have some of the December gas expenses, but some of those expenses in 2011, it looks like it's $1,200. It just depends on your winter and how that is. But I don't think I have December's, and sometimes those bills can run pretty high. So maybe $500 or $600 if it gets cold, and it hasn't been that cold. So that might get a little over $2,000 for a natural gas expense for 2012. So I said I would guess that's a good thing that we have less gas expense. Electricity is around the same. It's a little higher, $1,000 higher overall. Telephone expense is around the same. Fiber optic, which is what we had went to last year, that's around the same. Refuse expense again is the same. Independent service contracts, I think those were some increases on renting getting the tent. Also, we have to pay for inspections for our suppression systems, which some of those are new because of the remodeling of the house. We have to do suppression systems, the irrigation systems, which was through the Pepsi grant. We have to have all those expensive inspected. We have to have backflow inspections done every year and added on, so it's probably increased some of those costs through the years. And independent service contracts is probably a lot of where we recur expenses for programs we have at the Shea House, like the Victorian Christmas and the summer music festival we have there in the tent. Building repairs and maintenance are about the same. Machinery and equipment repair expense, just that means if a furnace goes down, we have to call someone in. Air conditioning, rents and leases. That's up a little higher, and rents and leases would be the rental of mats. We have many mats in the Shea House, but they come in and bring them in, and they get cleaned once a week. We've kicked around the idea of getting mats, but then if you have to go clean them all, then you gotta have replacement mats to put down. The expense to pick them up and someone take them over there and get them cleaned and then brought back. I don't know if it's a wash or not, but we're still looking at that as far as expenses go. Advertising expense, we had decided to in 2011, and up to this point we have helped advertising because we always figured if we would help the Shea House, it would help bringing more people in and maybe help our bottom line as far as the Shea House maybe someday being independent of the city in some ways. So we had helped with the advertising. Jan in 2012 took a lot of that over herself, and we incurred less expense for that, though we have spent around $3,000 more than we had the year before. But that, I think, a lot is the increase on some of these expenses because of Victorian Christmas, tent rental, buses, they all went up a little bit over time. And there might be something else in there that I'm missing, but I could look individually and see exactly what we paid for those.
Bob, do you know, there's something in the back of my mind. It's telling me that the Shea House expenses in 2011 were more than 50,000. Do you know if
That's all I would have. That's what I have in my QuickBooks. So I wouldn't. It wouldn't have changed it.
So the second column is not through December 17th. That is for all of them?
No, it probably is through December 17th.
I'm just wondering if maybe
it
last
could have
year's
been.
Shea House expenses were not invoiced by.
I can bring it back for the end. That's.
I might be wrong, but it's something.
It could have been.
Something in the back of my mind that's telling me that.
Okay, I can look. Probably when I bring up these report comparisons that I have on QuickBooks, I didn't even think about that, so that's a good observation. But I can do it again for the end of the year in a couple weeks, and then if it is dramatically different, I can bring that.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then you might be right. You might be right.
When Jan provided these to us in the past, there was some income listed. I mean,
She never brought this.
Oh.
This is all expenses.
She would
out of
give
my
us.
budget.
Remember, she would give us an arts council profit and loss.
Right.
This is out of Bob's budget.
Okay.
This
So
is
you
only
don't-
money-
So you wouldn't have any.
I wouldn't have any
okay,
income.
Okay, that explains it then.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is only that is spent specifically out of my budget.
And then will any of these line items, like advertising expense and maybe a couple others, not be on for next year since we're not supporting?
I would say your independent service contracts will go down tremendously. I mean, they'll go down.
Rents and leases
They'll go down
maybe?
$10,000 or more. And rents and leases, no, it probably will stay the same unless we change how we do the mats there.
Okay.
Now, as the house again gets older again, you never know what's going to happen. Our repair and maintenance could go up higher. Our building repairs and maintenance could go up higher. It's just those things you never know.
Okay.
But I would pretty much guarantee the independent service contract expense will go down.
Anybody else have questions about the Shea House expenses? I agree.
I have a short agenda tonight, really, but and I don't know if I talked about this last time. Is that not your agenda?
It is December.
Yeah. In the tunnel at the Port Authority, someone went in and busted out all the lights. Though when these tunnels are put in and with lights, we tell them that they need to have some kind of cover over them that you can take a ball bat, hit 15 times, and if it doesn't break, you might be able to use it. And that's our theory on how we do stuff in the parks. So apparently these lights, there was no cover on them. If there was, it was real fragile, and it probably took a couple of hits with a ball bat this time. So we had to replace all those, and with that, we have to buy these that old carriages around it, so people can't break them. So we have replaced those.
These metal things that block the light that's being emitted from
Yeah,
the light.
we buy solid steel, so. But that's the same thing we had to do at the Vietnam Memorial on the hill at Geller Park. You know, we had these great big, beautiful lights, and they lasted for a while, and then they all got broken. So we had to put these great big cages around them too. That they were expensive because you got to make it out of pretty thick gauge stuff. So, and then we're fighting graffiti still, especially anywhere where they're isolated in any tunnel under the underneath the Route 79, and the things they write on there are very good. So we try to get in there and get those replaced as quick as we can. And right now we're just doing, you know, regular maintenance on our equipment, doing our daily duties of emptying trash.
Yeah, it's my understanding that Licking Valley schools require their high school students to complete X number of service hours in order for them to get their diploma. It'd be nice if Heath schools did that, and we could utilize some of them for cleaning up graffiti.
And learn why not to do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Even if they don't require it, anyone that's trying to work on college applications is gonna want volunteer service on there. So if you just made the guidance counselor aware that that was an opportunity, it might be definitely.
It's the supervision that is the worst part of it. You know, if they don't bring somebody with them, it takes an employee away from doing their job for the day.
Yeah.
Lord Catholic does that. But they bring somebody with them. On the time they come to Gillett Park. Before the 4th of July, usually they have done that. But yeah, I know at COTC that was a requirement too, that you had to do some community service, and I know at COTC at times they would do the Meals on Wheels, and these kids would pick the stuff up and take them to these people's houses. It's quite a learning experience to see some of the things that some people go through. So yeah, I think it's a great idea. Great idea. That's all I have.
Anybody else have anything for Parks and Recreation? Leave a shade. All right, we're adjourned at 6:07.
Ready for finance? All right, first item, I'll come out of the streets department this evening, ordinance appropriate $62,180 within the capital improvement fund to pave South 30th Street. Further questions, comments?
Does that include a left turn lane?
What's that?
Where did you have
I
the
couldn't hear you, Dick. Any other comments? Okay. This is
I'll talk about that in other items.
other items. Go ahead.
Was mentioned at the last council meeting that we're gonna need a special council meeting for this coming Thursday, December 20th. And purpose would be to consider and pass the cleanup ordinance. We do that every year. It's kind of the timing of payroll and so forth, such that we just couldn't get it done for tonight. I apologize about that. I would suggest the meeting occur, if you could do it at 5, that'd be better than 5:30, but it shouldn't take much time, I wouldn't think.
When can everybody be here? Jeff can't be here.
I can be here at 5:30.
5:30, I think what we talked about. We're also aren't we gonna need it for the budget itself too?
Yeah, if we,
For the budget itself?
If you decide not to pass that tonight, yeah.
5:30 then? Brian? Yeah. Doug?
I know Cletus can make it, because he said he'd be here, I could be here at 5:30 on Thursday, so
Deb?
I'll just schedule tonight.
Okay.
And it'll be for the cleanup ordinance and for the, well, I guess we talk in caucus, but it's gonna be for the budget itself, but I just figured we would, that way we could just read it tonight. Pass the budget then.
Do we want to go over the budget in the finance committee?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. You can certainly do so.
Do you want, Keith, you want to cover your other item on there and then we'll talk
Yeah.
about that?
I do. There was a civil service test on Saturday that was for for the water distribution opening. And somebody came in first place and 5 others were tied for second. All right, and the civil service rules allow you to operate within what they, I think, refer to simply as a rule of 3. And this isn't the first time where the outcome of the test has caused some challenges in reference to the rule of 3. And
What that means in detail is that after the written test is taken, the order of the scores are established. Even in the case of ties, the Civil Service Commission breaks those ties by one means or another. We then, we being the administration, is given the top 3 applicant scores, given their resumes and applications and all that kind of stuff. We then interview those 3. If we want to hire one of those 3, then we do so. If we don't, then we notify all 3 that they're no longer candidates for the position, and then civil service gives us the next 3 on the list, and so on and so forth until we have chosen one of the applicants. Sorry. That's all right.
it crossed my mind prior to this particular test. This is probably the most dramatic demonstration of this issue. It would really be annoying if I scored second place, tied for second place, and through some procedure in civil service, they didn't interview me because they even talk about the timing of when the stuff is turned in, or some perhaps subjective process of somebody examining the co-applicants and determining that they somehow are more qualified than I, when I scored as well on the test. And it struck me that,
Or just drawing names.
yeah, they can
as the
get
final
down to the bottom
tiebreaker.
line and draw.
But they will put that list in order.
Yeah. So it struck me that if you have a circumstance where the rule of 3 doesn't apply because, or maybe shouldn't apply, because maybe you've got one person that scored first and then 3 people that scored second. In my viewpoint, they ought to give you 4 applicants and you interview all 4. And however it works out, and I think that the whole purpose of civil service is to be fair. And as I was contemplating this and discussing it with staff, Debbie Whitefield made the point that
the civil service rules regarding where you even post that there's an opening, what the process is. It says, I think the rules say you gotta post it in a newspaper. Well, who kind of reads a newspaper anymore? And you have these other options. You could post it on your website. You could post it on Craigslist, which originally was designed for a job site. There are other sites. Anyway, I think
A lot cheaper than our
Free.
the Newark Advocate.
Yeah.
Free.
absolutely free would be Craig.
It's about as cheap as
High Means Jobs is absolutely free too.
Yeah.
Is that right?
And
There-
it matches,
So that issue and the rule of three and the fact that these civil service rules have not been amended in any way, shape, or form since 1996, maybe it might be a good time to review and consider amending the rules appropriately. And I checked into the process of that. What happens is the commission can decide to apply to council to change the rules. They can come up with, we'd like to change this rule, this rule, this rule, and so forth. And this body has to approve any rule changes. But it takes the commission to act on any amendments, and then you guys get to say yes or no. And I guess I just suggest that we maybe forward a communication to the commission suggesting maybe they go through their rules and see if there's anything that should be changed, including the issue that I bring to you about this rule of three.
Can we send them a suggestion to look at this?
That's what I was getting ready to say. I can always communicate to Deborah Crane, Secretary for the Civil Service Commission. I can communicate to her any ideas or suggestions anybody may have.
It sounds to me like the administration, you as administration have more day-to-day contact with what the rules do or don't do.
Yep.
Rather than so
Yep.
you know the changes that you would like to see made, and maybe if you could say, hey, would you? And they may, I mean, you give them like 5 changes, they may only like 2 or 3 of them, but at least you'd get 2 or 3 of them changed, you know. So I don't see any problem with, you know, and then you give them to them, they make the changes, they bring it back to us, and if we're okay, you know.
I can be done
anytime.
It doesn't require a time dating or time,
No.
like a charter commission type thing.
No. No.
is it gonna be able to be done timely enough to help you with your current
No.
situation?
No.
And they don't have a set way that they decide who this number.
It's spelled out.
It is spelled out.
The
and
first
if-
step is that if there's multiple parts of the test and an applicant grades higher on a part that you weigh more heavily, then that's the first step used. Problem is,
This was
I
a
can't think of
multiple-
a circumstance
Yeah.
where we would have more than one test, one being more heavily weighed than the other. The second one says that if you have more seniority, which the idea behind that would be if this was like an internal promotional test. The next step is that the Civil Service Commission will review the applicants and use any experience or education in the field for which they are applying, and they use that then to break the tie. And the final one outlined, if those 3 don't work, the final one outlined is draw names. That's what it is.
Yeah, coin flipping.
Like I said, one way or another, you will get a list in order of the applicants and
That kind of worries me that if you got a tie and a guy's got education in this field and he gets tied by Joe Blow that has no education, I'm wondering.
well, then the third step, which is that review of that experience and background, should put that applicant then ahead of the list of Joe Blow who has nothing.
But if that guy ties the guy with the education, you're wondering.
How much education do we have?
And it's
Think
to
about
the
it.
discretion of the Civil Service Commission in the review of it as to what background or experience or education matters or doesn't matter or whatever. It's to their discretion.
And we have to go through civil service to hire people for a city.
Unless it's a non-classified position, yes.
Can you ask for a variance from the commission to interview?
Yeah, we
5 or 6
can
at the top?
ask for a waiver of what's Rule 150
Are you-
with civil service. I can make that request. The Civil Service Commission then votes on whether or not they grant that request. And if they do grant it, then they give you.
Are you guys gonna make that attempt for this situation that you're in now?
I would need to see the list first. I haven't seen the list yet.
But as he's saying, there's a first
My
place,
understanding is that there's
And then-
5 people tied for second.
5, 7, you could ask for, could you ask for that variance to say, waive the rule, let us interview the top 6, and here's the reason why?
Yeah.
It makes sense.
I think protocol is such, Mayor, I don't think you can review the applicants and look at the list. You could look, the only list you're gonna be allowed to look at, I think, is the last 4 digits of their social security.
Yeah, the list. That's all I can look at.
That's all you can look.
Yep.
You can't look at the resumes because their rules are gonna indicate, they're gonna give you 3, and under current rules, unless you ask the commission for a 150 waiver, you're gonna get 3.
The reason why I know more about this than I did a while ago was that when the last fire test that we had, where we hired Andy Hoffman, we had a first place finisher, we had 1 person in second, we had 2 people in third. In the interest of fairness, I asked for a waiver 150 to get the one who had tied for third but was ranked on the list as 4th. I don't believe they granted it to me. I then looked at how the ties are broken, and the way that they broke the tie was based on the time of the physical fitness test. Well, when I read the civil service rules, I said I didn't believe that was an appropriate tiebreaker because the physical fitness test and the written test are weighed equally. You have to pass both. If you fail either one of them, then you're done. So I requested a meeting with the Civil Service Commission. We had a meeting. I outlined my concerns with how they broke the tie. They agreed with me that was not the proper way of breaking the tie. So then I said, well, look, given the fact that we might have a situation where the guy who thought was number 3 is now going to become number 4, and the guy who's number 4 is going to become number 3, since that could play out, can I request again a waiver of Rule 150? And they said, yeah, you can request that. So the next day I made that request and they granted it to me. So we interviewed 4 candidates for that position. So that's why I know a little bit about this, is because I just went through that exercise. So what Heath is saying is that to a more fair and equitable way would be to interview the ties. I think it is more fair and equitable. The only way it could get clumsy, I could see it getting clumsy if you had more than 6 people that you were interviewing. That could get pretty clumsy. So there's that aspect, but there's no doubt, I think, that what Keith is outlining is probably a more fair way of breaking a tie.
It's also a bit of an indication, and when Kim did that test for tax, I was really tickled pink the way the scores came out. The indication was there was one person had 100%, and then somebody was second in the high 90s, and then somebody third in the high 90s. That's perfect when you're coming. You've got a good test when that happens. I suspect that in this case, where there's 6 tied for second place, there's maybe some wishes that test could have been a little harder. And you don't know how it's going to sort out. And that's not a criticism on the test. And quite frankly, I'm pleased we did the test in-house and it didn't cost the city another $500 or $600. So that's all good.
Is there any preference?
All of those preferences, if they're what John's saying is that the electricity at Cross Creek Shopping Center and the Indian Mountain Mall is out right now. Those preferences, veteran preferences, resident of Heath preferences, and things like that, those are all factored into that score. So when Keith says that there were 5 people tied for second, those variances would have been factored in, and here's where the scores were.
Sounds like it sucks pretty much to me. Nice to get rid of it.
Like I said, the only way it would get clumsy if you had a lot of people that you're interviewing, all for one position. Could get a little clumsy if you had a lot of ties. But
This is
Like the hand
premature.
of the administration.
This legislative request, this would come after the civil service
yeah,
would,
Make suggestions.
right.
That's right.
That's why it's down here.
They've got orchestrated, not us.
that's
Right.
correct.
And if, I guess I'm looking for advice of council. Do we throw this back at the Civil Service Commission in some form and say, hey, would you guys go over this and come up with revisions you think would be a good
Yeah.
thing, and here's some ideas of where we would steer you.
They don't have to meet monthly like say.
Good time, it's the end of year, beginning
They
of year,
could
it's a
take
good time to.
2 or 3 months and then say, okay, let's meet again and let's go over what we came up with on our review. They don't have to meet a bunch of times on this.
Get some new
How
numbers
soon
on
do you
it.
need this? Just like Chef says, it's the end of the year, it'd be a good time to hit them with it.
Yeah, yeah. I
End of
think
the year,
timing's
start of a
right,
new
too.
year,
Yeah.
let's kind of
Do you
revisit
have
this
time
stuff.
to do that for what you're hiring for?
No. No, we do not.
We need to get somebody right now.
No, yes. Yes. So, no, we would not be able to do that.
Anything else? Go over the budget?
No.
Can we,
Take 5.
review them, we take 5 and come back and maybe
Or we can do it now, I mean, I
entertain questions about the budget?
Or just take 5 minutes, that way we can take 5-minute break and then we'll.
Okay.
My,
Not yet. We kinda hoping.
prostate's actually.
Oh, you're talking about.
Oh, now there won't be a Christmas shop.
Yeah, I got a little bit.
Oh, no, doing all right.
Yeah, you say Cross Creek and the mall.
Our state agent.
Why, you gotta go south, where you gotta go? BW3? Get a cold one?
Get something. I'm out of crayon.
Oh, you gotta go to Giant Eagle.
Daniel's out, I would've been mad, I knew I should've stopped before.
You got our priorities now, you gotta make sure.
I was like, wait a minute, what did he say?
I know, you have to go to the pharmacy. It's right in the same area, right?
I kinda consider
Yeah,
that my
that's,
pharmacy.
it's.
Is that what they call it down that way?
Cough syrup, right?
That
You
is
gotta get some
what-
cough syrup.
that is
right?
my
Run to the farm.
You
Call
gotta
it
get
what
some
you
cough syrup. That's what Bob calls us Captain Morgan, isn't it?
How are you? 10%.
Is Scott back from Costa Rica or wherever he went?